So, TJ, how bright is Baker Mayfield's NFL future?
It ain't looking that bright. I ain't got my shades on, and it's not cloudy outside.
Dusty.
There's just not many options for Baker. When you look around the league and everybody keeps saying the Carolina Panthers, Sam Darnold is under the same contract, that fifth-year option that Baker Mayfield is.
Ooh.
So they bring in Baker Mayfield. What they going to do with Sam Darnold? That's basically $38 million in salary and quarter. I just don't see that taking place and happening with the number one. You go to the Panthers this late in the season. There may be guys on that team, and your best receiver has come out and said, I don't want to play with Baker. I don't want Baker on my team. So how is that dynamic if you do that? That's number one. You got to learn the offense, which isn't easy. And everybody runs the same plays, but it's called different. So now you got to learn a new language. The best spot for Baker is probably the Detroit Lions. Will Jared Goff be back next year? And if he is, how are they going to be? The Detroit Lions have been a bottom-of-the-pack team. I believe Baker can play. Baker can play. When everything is going good around him, which he's shown 2 years ago with the Cleveland Browns, he can get it done. But since Baker came into the league, no other quarterback in the National Football League has thrown more interceptions than Baker Mayfield.
Say it.
56 interceptions.
Yeah.
And I say that and still say I believe Baker can play.
Yeah.
It has to be the right situation. The Carolina Panthers is not the right situation. But how bright is his future? I don't know how bright it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not that bright at all. And we're squinting to find how bright it can be because right now it's not the sun that's making me squint. It's looking for that opportunity for you, Baker. God, because you caught yourself in a bind in a bad situation between a rock and a hard place called unemployment going forward. Let's talk about why Baker Mayfield is going to be unemployed going forward, and then that's when his opportunities will blossom, if so. There in the NFL are different levels of desire. You don't believe me? First rounders are desired differently than second rounders, et cetera, right? You don't believe me? Well, high price free agents are desired different than an undrafted free agent. You don't believe me? The star player doesn't get treated like the 53rd man. Baker Mayfield knows this because he's a former #1 overall pick. Baker Mayfield knows this because he's a former franchise quarterback in the eyes of the Cleveland Browns. But whoa, how the mighty have fallen. So now Baker Mayfield finds himself in this position. Wherever he goes, let's just play the Carolina situation out. He goes to Carolina. He's not in full desire in terms of they wanted Baker Mayfield. They went to all means to get Baker Mayfield. They had to have Baker Mayfield. You know what happens when they don't really, really need you? They don't give you a ton of leash. They don't give you a ton of opportunities. They don't give you a ton of grace. So that means when you throw that interception, they come down with a heavier hand than if they really, really desired you. Baker Mayfield's going to find himself in a position where he's going to go to the plate, and there's already 2 strikes against him. So any situation he goes to, he has to hit the ground running. And historically, Baker Mayfield has not hit the ground running. Whether you want to talk about his 6 wins as a rookie, even though that was a good season. You want to talk about the guy who was a walk-on before. Baker Mayfield has been in situations before where he's proved himself. But I don't think that there's an opportunity right now out there that's going to allow him enough space to prove himself.
I'm going to credit the fact that both of you are giving this a glimmer of light. Ooh. To the fact that you're former players and probably at some point you feel for a guy who's been put in this situation for whatever reason. But the reality is this is like a lunar eclipse. It is dark out there.
Darkness.
It's not only that, to TJ's point, like Carolina is the only team we hear them talking about. And the report was, if true, that he was supposed to go in there while Matt Corral gets his feet under him, gets his feet wet, and gets ready. So at the very best, he's a placeholder in Carolina, which means a year from now, he's going to be looking for a job. And he's only making $18 million. That's not a tremendous amount of money for what Baker Mayfield was once considered as, which was a starter in the NFL. I mean, that's actually bargain basement. So TJ, I agree with you. Like, I think that Baker can still he can play. He can be a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. The fact that there's so little interest in him indicates to me that it's more about it's more than just how he plays or his ability to play. That there's baggage coming out of Cleveland, that people are looking at it and saying it's just not worth it. Like, we'd rather go in a different direction than try to make it work with Baker Mayfield. And that's where, honestly, I don't know how you get out from under that. I'm not saying he's Johnny Manziel, but it feels a lot like Johnny Manziel adjacent right now, where people are just not willing to give him the opportunity. And even in the situation with Carolina, Cellis, we're talking about a placeholder, or the other circumstances we were talking about, come in and compete for a job. And no one was even willing to do that. So that says to me, people are now looking at Baker Mayfield at best as a backup quarterback. And does he have the demeanor or the attitude capable of handling being a backup quarterback? All of that to me says there is some rough road ahead for Baker Mayfield. There's no reason for me to feel optimistic that his career is suddenly going to take a turn. It feels like it is frittering away from him.
You have DJ Moore, receiver. You have Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson comes out and says, I don't want to play with Baker Mayfield.
I'm good.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube after you say that. But in a league that is quarterback-driven, Baker Mayfield is 4-17 when he attempts more than 36 passes. You cannot have a quarterback that is 4-17 when the game is in his hands and he has to bring it home. It's tough for Baker, and you're right. Being a former player, you want to see players that are playing now maximize every opportunity they get. I hope he gets another opportunity. His personality is rubbing people the wrong way. His play isn't good enough to overlook that personality. He's going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, bingo. Look, as former players, I think we try to hold up the meritocracy of sports. Oh, he's good enough to play, so give him a chance, damn it. That's how we always think. That's how we always talk. But sometimes we got to take the audience, the fans, into the human dynamics of when that same player becomes your teammate. So Baker Mayfield comes on the Carolina Panthers, and everybody outside of Sam Darnold is like, oh, got my report card out about the grade Baker Mayfield and everything he does. The first thing you grade is his personality. So then you go home and your boy call you, hey, heard y'all got Baker. How's Baker? You be like, yeah, all right, because it's day one. You know, he brought the apple to the teacher. He was on his best behavior. It's day one. He all right. Oh, he got that gun he could throw? He got that cannon? He all right. All right. You know what that adds up to? Carolina, if they go with Baker Mayfield, they just going to be all right. And that's not enough. So that's where everyone is stuck in terms of thinking of Baker Mayfield. Does he move the needle? And right now, the only way it really moves is not in the positive direction, and that's because more of personality.